hope you're having a good day. This is my Campeche tree. I'm going to do a quick update on this and a quick update on a couple other trees. Like I said, it's almost the shortest day of the year, and I really don't have a lot of major work to do on a lot of these trees, but I did repot this guy in April. Did some pruning on it a couple times over the summer. I think the last time I did anything to it was in August. And we've got a big strange windstorm coming in this weekend. Tomorrow's supposed to be the worst of it. And I just really don't like the way these long limbs are hanging out there. Sometimes they'll get caught in the wind like that. And I like this tree. I don't really want to topple it over. Still just, 6, 7, 8 months out of a repot. So don't want it to get any damage. So I'm going to go ahead and just basically chop these two down and then give you guys a little bit of a closer look at it. And then update a couple other trees here in a minute. Try to give you a look all the way around what it looks like there. Usually after a prune, it will, it's an apical plant where, it grows out of the apex more than anything else. But these other limbs this time really have done no growing. And for several weeks now, I've considered cutting these back, just trying to get some growth down here anyhow. But since we have been heading into winter, I just figured I'd let them go. They still have, especially on this side here, this one still has some purple growth where that's the new stuff that's not really hardened off yet. The other one really doesn't have a lot of new growth on it. And everything else is just kind of the, where it was the last time I pruned it. Still good and healthy though, looks good. And this branch here, this branch actually has a lower branch coming out almost parallel to it for a little bit, and then this one takes off out of the top. And this I want to keep as the apex, and this I just want to keep as a lower branch. So I'm going to just cut off the whole part there where it took off straight up. And then this other one, it also has a little bit of a lower branch coming this way, not parallel by any means. And I think I'm just going to go and get that guy right about there. And that should get it a lot more compact to get it through this windstorm this weekend and everything. And I'm going to give you guys a little closer look at it too. And give you guys a little closer look at it. This is pretty much what I've envisioned as being the front. You can see a little movement in the trunk, and the tree is leaning towards you that way. It does have a little bit of a cleaner look on the backside here, but then the tree is going away from you some. You can see more of the trunk, but it's kind of not the interesting side of it. Just wanted to kind of give a little bit of a close-up there of the trunk. One of the reasons why I like this tree so much, it's got so much character in the trunk. It's not really huge, nice and easy to carry for me and everything. But it's got some interesting features there. I'd say about the only thing that I don't like about it, and it's not that I don't like it, but this is just a really big scar right there, and that is just some petrified wood. I mean, they do call this log wood. It's some of the heaviest wood. And I've tried to even take the knob cutters to it, and it doesn't really do all that well, but eventually it'll heal that over, or maybe even get big enough to where it'll just kind of be hidden in there where you can't really see it all that well. Alright, next one I'm going to update you on is this Ficus Concinna tree. And this tree, for me, is just, I feel like it's a good example of how some of these trees, when they're freshly pruned, defoliated, they first start growing out, they look so beautiful. This comes out with red, and sometimes it'll get a pinkish hue on the leaves. Just absolutely an awesome looking tree. And then when you don't prune it for a long time, it just looks kind of sad with all these big old ratty leaves on there. I repotted this tree in April. Chopped it off. It wasn't even all that. It was probably only about this tall, but it had like a thicker top to it. And I chopped it down to about here. It might have been about that tall. And now I'm allowing it to regrow. July, I think it was. I pruned it pretty hard, and I got some wire, basically just two wires. These two lower branches wired together, and then the next two wired together. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to prune it a little bit, just kind of lightly, so that I can see what I'm doing in there, get rid of some of these old ratty leaves. And actually even that branch there is just a long shoot that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm not going to prune it back too hard, I'm just going to take off a good bit of it. But once I kind of get in here and get these old ratty leaves off and everything, I'll be able to see a lot better when I want to try to get in and get that wire off. And then I'm going to wire the apex with a little bend in it, and then also one of these top branches. Alright, I've been really resisting the urge to go too hog wild on it. You know, I got this in a January, probably 4 or 5 years ago. This was a tree I've had for quite some time. I got it because I'd never really heard of it, and it just looks so much more, so much different than all the Microcarpa that they had at the nursery and everything. But I'd like for this to continue, you know, rapidly growing and healing up the chop scar here from where I chopped it at the repot in April. But I am going to I'm not going to cut them back far, but I'm going to cut the growing tips off of both of these secondary branches that are coming off of that. So they're getting kind of long, and I'd like to kind of build a tighter apex. And again, just allow that to kind of go ahead and keep shooting up there. And then I was thinking about cutting back these two branches right here. And you guys might not be able to see where they're coming off of the main branch there. But then I realized the reason why I wanted to get rid of them is they were bothering me. This one is growing on top of another branch there, and they're coming out right at the same place, so I'll just go ahead and take off one of them. Leave the other one on there. I think that one will be helpful. I got distracted there. I was saying that I bought this in January, and it had, you guys might even be able to see that right there, that it had a root that was coming out of the pot there. And I was just so worried that I love the root system, but I had to get that off right away. So I basically repotted it lightly. All I did was cut that root off and then kind of put it back in the pot. But then I also defoliated and pruned the whole thing. And I tell you what, it's at bare all winter. I don't think it started getting leaves until like late February, early May. And I was really getting worried because most of the other, you know, most of Microcarpa and everything out there keep growing. So that's why I'm really resisting the urge to cut it way back. That's about all the cleaning up I'm going to do. Let me go ahead and get this wire off. Oh, right, and the wire's off there. Like I said, I had one wire with these two branches, and then one wire with this one and a back branch back here. And so I haven't had any wire on this one, or, of course, this one's a new branch, but I haven't had anyone on those two for a while. So I'm going to wire these two together. All right, the wire's on. As I said, this branch is a little bit of an older branch. Already had some movement in it. I'm going to try to just go a little bit deeper with the way it already was going. And that branch is kind of growing onto that one. I'll go ahead and take advantage of getting a closer look at that to see that probably needed to go. And then up here, I only have I have the wire right about up to here. If I was going to keep this whole thing, you know, I would have wired it all the way up to the end, tried to get a lot of movement out of it. But I'll show you the chop scar in a minute. Chop scar is like right here. And then the smaller, you know, the new leader here is kind of going away from the tree that way a little bit. So I'm going to bend it really hard back over the tree, just to kind of balance it out a little bit, if you will. It's just kind of coming this way. I'm going to go ahead and get it over that way really hard. And then, you know, I may turn it up just a little bit just so that these leaves can face the sun. Won't really matter on a ficus. They just go ahead and keep growing anyway. But eventually, I'll be chopping this guy somewhere around in there for some taper once that scar is healed a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead, and I guess that's the best angle to kind of see that on right there. And just get it as sharp as I can. The other thing, as it grows, it'll kind of soften up as well. Just get a really good bend going that way. And bring it back over the main, and then just, like I said, just a little bit there, just to kind of let it keep getting its momentum towards the sun. There's the scar there. I've got the wire kind of right there. I'm hoping that if it'll grip that as it kind of grows up a little bit, not only will it heal the scar, but also maybe make a little dent in the deadwood there, just to allow that just to kind of envelop a little bit better. All right, and then there's this little microcarpa one here. I actually did a video on this one about a month and a half ago or so. I actually called this one the Cannon. But since then, it has gotten so many fruits on here. And usually on most of my microcarpa, they come out green and they stay really small, and then they just kind of shrivel up and then fall off the tree, you know, as they kind of turn black. But I think this is a good sign that we got the wasp around here. It does take I'm going to give a whole biology lesson, but it takes a certain type of wasp to pollinate the figs. And if they don't pollinate, like I said, they just turn black and fall off. Let's see, I found that some of the best angle to look at it would be this side. I've had a couple turn purple like this before, but I've never really had them turn red like they are. I'm trying to get the best angle here for you. And that should be a good shot there. Almost looking like berries on a holly bush. This one up here, probably the most mature. You can tell the size of it from the size of my hands. This one has a super hideous chop scar here. And when I did do that video in March, or not in March, about a month and a half ago, I did mention that I wanted to, you know, let this leader go now. At first, I was trying to develop these to get some more taper. But then, you know, now that I'm just a little more experienced than I was right when I first started this tree, I realized what I need to do is let this go so that I can try to heal this hideous scar. It was just really big too. But I'm going to go ahead and, you know, as I've been just watching it out there, I've been watching the fruits develop. I've just been thinking, like, since this is so flexible, I really should kind of almost just like on that Concinna I just did, at least take advantage of like getting some movement started in it a little bit. I did kind of notice a couple. Now, microcarpa, I'd be a lot more willing to be brave as far as pruning in the winter, but I don't really want to. You know, I want to let it develop all winter. But I did notice just a couple of branches that were just kind of, not really branches, but just twigs that were coming straight up just in some bad spots. Go ahead and knock those out too, just while I got it in here. Mentioned before, we got that windstorm coming this weekend, and it's just kind of crappy outside right now anyway. The wind's blowing, super cloudy. All right, so I got the wire on there. Was able to get it kind of moved back over where the big chop mark is. And just get a little wave into it. And we'll check on it in the spring.